which is the best side of a cruise ship to be on? Is it better to be on a higher deck on a cruise ship? Where's the best place on a cruise ship to avoid seasickness today? I'm going to share with you the most desirable cabin locations on any cruise ship up next. Hey everyone, it's Matt from RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com. New cruisers are often curious about how important their cabin selection is and what's the best spot for them on a cruise ship. There are a number of considerations when it comes to picking the best place to stay on a cruise ship, and that has a lot to do with convenience and, of course, motion in the ocean. Where the room is located can dictate price and options. In general, many cruisers prefer midship locations on a lower deck, especially if getting seasick is a major concern. Rooms that are located at the very front or very aft of the ship and or rooms on the higher decks can have a reputation of being more noticeable movement there. Whether your room is on the port or starboard side of the ship is most cases totally irrelevant. There are a few rare itineraries where the side of the ship of your room may matter subjectively, but it's not a factor I really recommend considering when you're picking out your cabin. Picking the right room is often a question of determining which public areas you want to be nearby. Rooms in close proximity to pools, restaurants, Adventure Ocean, elevators, the fitness center, and more may be something to look for when picking the right room for you. When in doubt, go for a room towards the center of the ship. Getting a midship cabin means shorter walks to get to places because you're already near what's happening on board. If mobility is a concern, then you definitely want to pick a room near an elevator towards the middle of the ship because that will minimize the walking required. In addition, Royal Caribbean offers special accessible room categories for those in a wheelchair. When picking a room, be sure to consider what is one deck above or below your room. Public venues above or below your room can sometimes lead to unwanted noise bleed. Consulting deck plans for your ship is the best way to figure out what is around your ship. Even with all that in mind, cruise ship cabins come in all shapes and sizes with a variety of amenities, and sometimes you might find really small inside cabins with very little space, or on the other end of the spectrum, spacious suite cabins with tons of room to maneuver. Indeed, there's a wide variety of not just cabin locations, but types of cabins on ships, that the best way to narrow down the choices for your cabin is to limit yourself to a certain types of cabins you don't want to choose. Today, I wanted to list some really high demand types of cabins so you have an idea of what is truly popular with a lot of people and why these types of cabins are popular so you can make a good decision in getting that best location for your cruise. We're going to start off the list, I think, with the most popular room location ever, and that is a midship cabin. By far, most cruisers prefer a cabin midship for stability and proximity. A midship cabin will likely have the least sensation of movement, which is helpful for anybody worried about getting seasick. The reason why a cabin in the middle of the ship is better is because it's more centralized, and the sensation of movement is reduced closer to the middle and lower you are on a ship. In addition, being midship means less of a walk to elevators as well as things to do on other decks. Whether you're going to the pool deck, Royal Promenade, or the dining room, being midship means a faster commute to and from your cabin to these locations. The reason you should know midship cabins are highly desirable is because they tend to sell out faster than other rooms on the front or back of the ship. So be sure to book early to snag a great spot. Another really desirable cabin location are aft-facing rooms, traditionally aft balconies. As the name implies, an aft balcony is a balcony that overlooks the back of the ship. On Royal Caribbean cruise ships, I'm not aware of, there might be, but I'm pretty sure all the aft-facing rooms are balconies of some kind, whether they are a suite or a balcony, depends on the ship. But generally speaking, these are rooms that are on the back of the ship with a balcony over there. Aft balcony rooms stand out because they offer a different kind of view from a standard balcony, which some cruisers find really desirable. Having a view of the ship's wake is something you may find relaxing and or just simply enjoyable to watch, especially when sailing out of a port. In addition, the aft balcony rooms on some Royal Caribbean ships have significantly larger balcony space than a balcony cabin on each side of the ship. Essentially, you may end up paying a similar price as somebody who books a balcony on the side of the ship, but get much more living space on your private veranda. Another really nice benefit of an aft balcony is you will not have noisy people walking by your door compared to cabins midship because, of course, you're at the very end of the hallway. If there's a drawback to the aft balconies, it's probably the distance from your room back to the elevators. On Royal Caribbean cruise ships, there are 2 elevator banks at the front and the middle of the ship. Depending on the size of your ship and your aversion to walking longer distances, the amount of walking to and from your room may be a concern. In addition, aft balcony rooms can sometimes have less of a breeze compared to balcony rooms. This will, of course, vary from sailing to sailing, so it's harder to know what to expect there. And just like rooms at the very front of the ship, if you're really sensitive to motion in the ocean, well, the movement can be potentially greater at the very back of the ship. One more thing you should know about aft balcony rooms on Royal Caribbean is that if you're on a Voyager or Freedom class ship, some of the aft balcony rooms have obstructions with them in the view from your balcony, something to keep in mind. No matter which type of cabin you get, whether it's an inside, a balcony, a suite, the most desirable location is to be a cabin that has cabins above and below you. Perhaps the biggest concern with picking any kind of room on a cruise ship is noise bleed, whether it's noise from another venue or perhaps other people. Royal Caribbean's cabins do a pretty good job at muffling nearby noise, but no cabin is soundproof. Before you book a room, look at the ship's deck plans and look what is above and below your stateroom. Ideally, you want other cabins on either deck and not public venues like pools, restaurants, or other public venues. Keep in mind, by the way, it's not the worst thing if there is a public venue on a deck above or below your room, but it's the best practice if you can avoid it. If you happen to be looking at a suite, something else you might want to consider is proximity to the suite amenities. Now, depending on the cruise ship you're on, the amount of amenities will vary considerably, but especially if you're on an Oasis or Quantum class ship in which the suite amenities are really pronounced, then you might want a cabin that's closer to the suite lounge or even the suite deck or both. The Royal Suite class is available only on the Quantum and Oasis class ships, and it provides additional suite benefits you won't find on any other Royal Caribbean ships that are out there. And what makes this really special is venues like not only the Suite Lounge, but also Coastal Kitchen, and of course the Suite Sun Deck on Wonder of the Seas. The new Sun Deck is absolutely amazing, and it's the first real suite area that I've actually been drawn to go spend time at, as opposed to, well, this is nice, but it's kind of out of the way and not really that appealing. The Suite Sun Deck on Wonder of the Seas has its own private bar, a pool, lounge chairs, and a lot of shade, which I really, really enjoy. Now, if these things are important to you, well, having a cabin nearby can make a big difference. As an example, if you picked one of the amazing Aqua Theater suites on the back of the ship, that's fantastic views, but it's a hike back to the suite amenities because you're going to have to walk all the way to the mid elevators and then go all the way back up to the Suite Sun Deck on deck 17 and then go find, the different amenities, whether it's Coastal Kitchen or the Suite Sun Deck or what have you. It's a bit of a hike, and I know this is a first world problem, but what I'm here to tell you is that it gets old pretty quickly, that kind of a walk, and you might find yourself thinking, do I really want to walk all the way over there and then all the way back, as opposed to a cabin on deck 17, which, yes, doesn't have the amazing views the Aqua Theater suite has, but it still allows you a much closer proximity to the suite amenities. Again, it's hard to know whether or not these things will matter to you all that much, but if you are staying in a suite, you definitely want to look at where your cabin is in proximity to those amenities. If you're on other Royal Caribbean cruise ships that are not Oasis or Quantum class, well, still, the Suite Lounge and Suite Sun Deck may be important to you. So again, take that into consideration when picking your cabin. Another type of cabin that's usually high in demand are actually obstructed view cabins. I know this sounds like the opposite. You might say, wait a minute, there are rooms people want to go to that don't have a full view and something's in the way. Why would you want to book those rooms? And that is because they're usually way cheaper than other types of cabins that are out there. When it comes to obstructed view cabins, it means something, whether it's a structure or an item, is basically blocking the view in some regard. It may not be 100% blockage. It could be 25% or 50% or somewhere in between. But some aspect of your view is going to be blocked compared to a traditional room, whether it's an ocean view or a balcony will depend. But the reason why people really like these cabins is that they're way cheaper to get them, and you get the same basic idea. Again, it's pretty rare to get a full obstructed view with Royal Caribbean. I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm saying they're very few and far between. And so if you're okay with some of your view being blocked, you can really save a lot of money and still achieve that general idea of the view that's out there. In a lot of cases, the obstructed view balconies are ones in which you go out to your balcony, you simply can't look all the way down because the lifeboats are in the way, but you can still look out ahead of you and all around. So to me, it can be very much worthwhile as something to look into, especially if you're on a budget. In short, there is no one perfect cabin location that's best for everybody, but there are a couple of ideas and places that really do stand out. You really have to weigh the considerations outlined here to decide which is important to you. Overall, the cost and location of the cabin are the primary factors in picking the perfect room on a cruise, and this may mean paying more than others to get that awesome stateroom in the perfect spot. It's just like real estate. When you're buying a house, it's all about location, 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 and yeah, the better locations do cost more. Many first-time cruisers are very concerned with getting seasick, and while it can happen, it should not be your primary concern when choosing a cabin. Don't let this fear force you to overpay for a cabin that looks to be the only choice worth considering. Yes, staying somewhere towards the middle of the ship on a lower deck is the best spot to minimize the cessation of movement, but you can also venture off a bit center if it means saving a lot of money. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts on the best cabin location. What is the most desirable cabin location on a cruise ship that you've been on, and what do you think most people end up booking? What kind of cabins Go quickly let me know in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications. That way, YouTube lets you know we have a brand new video to share. This has been Matt from RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com. We'll talk again real soon.